So are we recording? Did my voice just go up an octave? Are we recording? Yeah, we're recording.
Cold War.
Cold War, it's so chilly. Chilly.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be talking about...
Mine is still recording.
It is recording, we'll put that in.
Oh,
I know Zulu.
I know more Spanish than Zulu, which maybe is not a good thing in this country, I don't know. Anyway. Is that it?
All right, welcome everybody. This is the Guillotine podcast, back again with another banger. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, share this video far and wide. You know when YouTubers do that.
Yeah.
Subscribe, thumbs up, like.
Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
After our incredible interview with Dr. Glenn Jeffrey.
Yeah. We need Chris. We need sound effects.
Yeah. Don't you have that on there? Do-do-do-do.
I like it.
And Dr. Andrew Huberman on the Huberman Lab copied us. It's actually really good interview.
Yeah.
I listened to it this morning with Huberman. With his 7.25 million followers. Maybe he might get a few more views than we got. But hey, we covered much of the same stuff. Right.
Well, yeah, that's the previous episode. To our viewers, please be sure to check that out.
That was loud.
Yeah, you're gonna need to restart that.
No, that's fine. Why do we need to restart it? The bell's chimed. That's okay. We haven't even started the topic yet. Why? We don't normally hear it though, do we? Oh, it's because we're normally doing it so late.
After school, yeah.
Ah, yes.
Chris, do you want to maybe mark it from here?
It's fine. Leave it in.
All right, cool.
It's part of what we do. we are teachers in a school, and bell rings. We are ruled by the bell.
Yeah.
When I was when I went into journalism in 2007 to 10, one of the things that I found most satisfying, not that I'd been teaching that long, I started in 2003.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, but I loved not having a bell, not living my life according to a bell. Because you do for like 12 years of your life at school, and then, okay, varsities don't have it, but your school life as a teacher is basically the same as a pupil. You're a learner you're run by however many bells a day, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is.
I wonder what that does to your psyche, just in terms of how you perceive time and maybe responsibility and
Yeah, E equals MC squared. Yeah, relativity. That's a different topic. Okay, so what are we talking about, Mr. Norbs?
All right, so grade 11 syllabus. Mama Russia. Mother Russia. Russian Revolution, particularly the Tsarist revolution.
Yeah, so we're going to do this in 3 episodes.
3 episodes. So Tsarist revolution, Lenin, Stalin.
Yeah.
Stalin,
Okay, so
Stalin.
So causes of revolution.
Yeah.
We'll look at Tsarist Russia in general, 1905, leading to World War.
Yeah, World War One. Yeah.
Emphasizing the conditions, the poor conditions, and the miserable peasantry. The peasants are revolting. It's the oldest joke.
Yeah. Hierarchy as well. Russia being an autocracy ruled by Tsar Nicholas II.
Does.
Yeah. So that's essentially what grade 11 term 1 covers.
Well, yeah, it's Russia, all of Russia.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, the curriculum says all the way to pseudoscientific racism. But you can't cover Russia in a term. Or you can't cover Russia in a week or two. So yeah, we catch up a little bit in term 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tsarist Russia. What is a Tsar? Let's start with that. What is a Tsar?
Well, it's an autocratic leader. Were these leaders ordained or appointed by divine right in Russia as well?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much a pattern consistent.
It's colonial. You got to remember these guys are all related anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, Tsar Nicholas was the cousin of Kaiser Wilhelm, who was the cousin of Queen Victoria. They all ruled Europe entirely.
Yeah.
So I mean, a Tsar is essentially an emperor.
An emperor, autocratic leader, doesn't get elected, obviously. Divine right, divine appointment. No parliament up to a certain...
Up to 1905.
1905, yes, up to a certain point, which then means that you end up having a society that runs on essentially the feudal model.
It is essentially.
So you have... a wealthy elite at the top, you have a wide peasantry base at the bottom, power.
Serfdom initially up until, I believe, 1867 or something like that. A serf, difference between a serf, not a smurf, a serf, or S-E-R-F as well, not a surf as in the beach. A serf is essentially a peasant, but they come with the land, so they're owned. Along with the, if somebody buys that property, they buy the serfs with them. It's kind of like slavery, but it's not quite. You're not shackled and beaten and
it's polished.
Yeah. So you're just essentially just part of that property.
Yeah.
So you belong to the noble.
Yeah.
Nobility.
So no property rights, obviously, for the serfs, and also in terms of economic participation, you don't have a say in that regard. So the politics meaning the power structure, leadership, and its direct impact on the economics as well, which will obviously have social implications as well. Yeah. So I typically look at Russia, or this is where I normally begin my discussion of Russia, just breaking down how the Russian society was structured. So Tsar Nicholas II as an autocrat. Power is given to him by divine right, which then sort of structures society in a particular way. Those who are higher ranking, obviously the emperor will have a say in terms of who's positioned where and what powers do they have, what do they control, and they report obviously to the emperor, and where does that leave the rest of society, and with that inequality in the politics and economics, how does that translate into poverty, into dissatisfaction, into people just generally struggling, which then in turn always leads to some form of revolution.
I mean it's quite. It's not an easy topic, but it does follow on from grade 10's French Revolution. So they'll have a good understanding of hierarchy and feudalism. I think that kind of concept of hierarchy is something they would start with, as you said, the social structure. The Tsar at the top, the emperor, the clergy is essentially clergy and the nobility. The power lies within those groups, but they're a very small minority, and that's the key. The elite, the 4% or whatever it is, who have a lot of wealth, they've inherited it. The country in general is agrarian; it's undeveloped. It didn't go through the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
So it is an agrarian society, dependent largely on farming and a lot of subsistence farming as well. So as a nation, there's that very what's the word, myopic wealth, centralized wealth. But it doesn't spread, as you said, to the majority of peasantry, serfdom, peasantry. Proletariat, because they're agrarian, they're not industrialized, is very small. And that's an important point to note as we go into the Lenin side of things in the next episode, because the proletariat is what you need for Marxism to succeed. because obviously Marx was a German philosopher in one of the most industrialized nations with a manifesto that essentially was designed around an industrialized nation, and Lenin did not have that. So it was already on the back foot. Yeah. So yeah, I think socially that structure is important to note.
Yeah.
Maybe Russia in itself, in its size and its multi-ethnicity, along with the lack of development, is also an important point. Very difficult to rule over apparently the third biggest empire in history. Huge, I mean, absolutely huge. You can always look at a map. I know that our production manager will put a map here. Right, yeah. And you'll see, I mean, one of the first things we look at is the different ethnicities. I think it's, 14 different ethnicities or something.
Yeah.
You know, from Jews to Russians to Armenians to whatever. And they're all different tribes, essentially.
Yeah, and getting cohesion out of there, social cohesion is going to be very difficult. Politically, socially, economically, yeah.
I mean, South Africa is not far off that if you look at, I mean, a much smaller nation, obviously, but in terms of having all that diversity, all that different ethnic ideas, it's not easy. It's not an easy job.
Beautiful, yeah, but it's to manage it can be, who do you cater for? Who do you...
Especially in sort of 19th century Europe, essentially Europe, you know, where you're trying to create, I mean, nationalism is very important. Empires are not democratic. You want people to follow you. It's, you know, and that's hard when you have 14 different ethnicities and a massive, you know, land mass. So just kind of with that backing, that geographical backing, and also because there's so little development, there's no railway lines, not really. It's very poorly infrastrucctured, which again means certain people are left almost entirely isolated.
And this is in contrast to Western Europe, because they'll remember from their grade 8 syllabus, the Industrial Revolution. So Western Europe at this point is industrializing for the most part.
Well, I mean, if we're talking like 1900, 1905, they're done. They've gone through it.
They've even started colonizing other parts of the world.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, 1884.
Berlin Conference.
Exactly. So, so let's talk generally. Looking at that structure, that hierarchy, you know, and we've mentioned statistically, you've got your emperor, all-powerful, autocratic. You got your church, you got your nobility, landowners. The Russian Orthodox Church is incredibly influential. It's a main pillar of power. Depending on the Tsar at the time, you know, more or less power between those, same as any divine kings or emperors or whatever monarch. You know, their level of confidence and assertiveness also kind of creates a balance of power between church and state. In the case of Louis XVI, you know, a weak king who's basically dictated to by his elite first and second estates. Tsar Nicholas II of Russia is similar.
Very much similar.
Maybe more assertive in the sense that he just makes a lot of mistakes. He wants to be seen as a strong leader because, you know, he's the guy that takes himself off to the front line during World War I. And, you know, when you lose battles as the person who's put themselves in charge on the battlefield, you are equated with loss and weakness. So from that kind of perspective, maybe a political perspective, because you always want to break it down, political, social, economic, and then we look at the effects of World War I. So politically, he's not the strongest character. I think he's quite easily influenced as well, along the lines of Louis XVI. And just as a dynasty, as the Romanov dynasty, which had, you know, I think lasted 370 years or something. From the mid-16th century to 1917, you know, there's that assumed power, that assumed divine right, and a complete dismissiveness of the people's needs. And you see that constantly. I mean, 1905, considered the first revolution, really. I don't know if it was initiated, but certainly sort of sparked to some degree by old Georgi Gapon. It's a very French-sounding name. Well, not Georgi, but Gapon. Gapon sounds French to me. But anyway, I mean, Father Gapon, who
Father
leads...
Gapon, so that's what, 1905? Bloody Sunday.
January 22, I think. He, leads that petition of however many thousand people.
About what? 200,000, I think.
I don't think it was that big.
Yeah.
I think it was a couple of thousand. The big sort of riots that sparked from that was hundreds of thousands, certainly tens of thousands.
Yeah.
But I think that initial march was a few thousand.
No, yeah, true.
I don't know. We'll put the number there.
Yeah.
There, sorry. But yeah, I mean, that obviously became, as you said, Bloody Sunday, because old Tsar Nicholas, who wasn't even at the Winter Palace in Petrograd, St. Petersburg, I mean, he just ordered the Cossacks to fire on him. Killed, well, the numbers vary, but anywhere between a couple of hundred and 1,000 dead, which doesn't normally make people happy. Yeah,
I mean, it's a great way of reinforcing this perception that it is us versus the authorities. It's the base of the population versus the structures that govern. I mean, you literally are ordering your troops to fire.
Yeah, you have complaints, we don't care. Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to start a revolution. Don't listen to anyone, shoot them.
Then shoot them.
Especially when you're not the strongest monarchy to have existed. They weren't. I mean, let's remember this is in the midst of the Russo-Japanese War, which they lost. Which first time a European nation, I say European because Russia's so massive, but you normally think of the Kremlin, the central government center as Europe. The first time a European power had lost to an Asian power. So, that's...
Geopolitically, that would have been massive as well.
Yeah.
How do you assert your dominance, and how do you inspire confidence in your own people if you're losing wars? I mean, it's actually insane how pivotal war was back then.
Was. Not sure was is the right term. When we look around us at the moment, there's a lot of that going on. I mean, Russia's still involved.
It's much more nuanced now, but fundamentally, it's still war,
Yes, I mean, and also war costs money, and money spent on war means no money spent on the people. I mean, that's the basis of how it works.
But also, you rely on nationalism to rally people to war, and so what happens when you lose? How do you consolidate that sense of defeat and therefore wordlessness that comes out of it, just maybe from a more psychological point of view?
No, absolutely. I mean, it is definitely, especially again, as we said, in this period, when nationalism is a big part of imperialism. Today that's I don't know, it's that much less of a thing, but it's a lot more subtle. I mean, people have a lot more kind of view into other opinions thanks to social media, the internet, news in general. I mean, ever since, I think latter 20th century with the advent of televisions, and then, later, and, a lot of the kids don't know when the internet was invented, was created. So, I mean, we know, like, I'm talking like everybody's access to the internet. I mean, that's basically 1995.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, first...
When you were born.
Hey, because I would have started, getting familiar with computers maybe in the early 2000s. I mean, we had our first desktop computer in 2006 when my sister was born.
So that's a proper computer. I had, my family, I should say, had... was an Atari 800 XL, which I won, or my mother won actually, in a New Germany primary school, which is my old school, raffle. And so we won this Atari 800 XL, which is essentially like, I learned to program on that, on Logo, which is essentially Turtle Logo. So you had little programs in the book and you could make things move and whatever. It was quite cool. That's 1980, standard 4, grade 6. What are you, about 12-ish? So 1986, 7, somewhere around there. Yeah. And that, I mean, there's no internet on that. It's just a computer thing.
Yeah.
Games, you had like a little console. We've really gone off topic. The point being that there wasn't any internet or social media, you know, and I think that's our point, is that only happened in the sort of 90s.
Yeah.
You know, this is way back in 1900.
Yeah.
So yeah, people heard things via newspaper or maybe even town crier. I don't know if they had those still in 1905. You know, the town crier that would stand up on the read out the news essentially. So yeah, I mean, news traveled slowly, and what the government said, and I would actually say prior to the 90s, maybe 2000s, what the news on TV said was true.
With gospel truth.
It's true. Because you didn't have anything to... Why would the government lie to us? Governments don't lie. That's crazy, Chalk.
But also Napoleon, so France, another tangent. Napoleon understood this very well. You know, the power of controlling the press. So I think it was known. But there was a bit of denialism. You know.
I think the general masses didn't realize it. Like even today, you know, we didn't realize. We don't realize a lot of things.
Yeah.
Governments, you know, they have experts and whatever, propagandists. So what they say is gospel, as you said. And so the defeat to the Japanese was a big thing psychologically, as you mentioned. So there's that aspect, politically a weak Tsar, a poor sort of, poor relations, poor, what's the right word, optics of the Tsar government, that autocracy, being oppressive and also being unsuccessful. And so people are sort of dissatisfied that glean of a divine king is definitely breaking down. I think people aren't as kind of convinced by that at all. And then you have a vast majority of peasantry. What is it, about 84%, or it's pushing 90% of the population, you know, with your tiny, as we said already, in terms of a social structure. And then I suppose that kind of, well, socially they're very poor. They're mostly peasants. The proletariat, as we said, is very tiny because there isn't much development. In fact, that in itself, I think at about 1905, is about 4% of a population. I think the population was around 120 or 30 million or something, somewhere around that, which is a lot
it's quite a bit,
for 120 whatever years ago. It's a big population. So socially, terrible conditions. Peasants are, you know, there's poverty, there's famine at various points. And they're not particularly treated well. And those who are proletariat are living in lodgings, you know, overcrowded, dirty, unhygienic lodgings. So the general conditions, and they're at war during that sort of 1905 into 1906 period. I think that Japanese war went on for about 18 months, something like that. And that's costly, and it makes the problems worse. Economically, the country is not wealthy. Again, if you're not industrialized, you tend to be lagging. I don't know. I couldn't give you. I don't have a clue what their GDP was, but I'm sure it wasn't high. So socially, economically, politically, there's the 1905 revolution, the uprising, which leads to a pretty long-lasting revolution. I think it actually kind of rumbles on for a couple of years, but 1905, you know, when they pass the October Manifesto, which leads to the signing of the new constitution early 1906, makes a difference.
Formation of the Duma.
The Duma,
Duma as well, which essentially was just optics as well.
Yeah.
No real tangible change.
And maybe just define what a Duma is for the grade 11s who got to cope with this.
Duma would have been a parliament in Russia. So there obviously would have been various representatives in the parliament speaking on behalf of their constituency, with the aim of obviously influencing how decisions are made in the country. But also something like parliament would would pull power away from an establishment such as an emperor, because it means that there has to be consensus before certain decisions are made. Was Tsar Nicholas II willing to give up that power and allow Parliament to dictate how the economy, how politics should function? Not so much. And so it typically was a failure. It typically was a failure. No real tangible change was achieved. I would argue, in the name of preserving that power and privilege that the upper classes would have had in Russia, in Mama Russia.
Mother Russia. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think Pyotr Stolypin was I don't know what they called him. I suppose he was the prime minister, because it's essentially a parliamentary system. Look, they got some things passed by. Didn't, as you say, it didn't really limit the power of the Tsar. Its optics. It gave the impression of democracy. Look, the bottom line is it didn't change the circumstances for the majority of the peasantry, and we know that because 1917.
Another series of revolutions as well. Yeah.
So I mean, I think you're right. It preserved the power. He actually dissolved it. The parliament, and then it was a second one, and I don't know how many times that happened.
I think it was 3. Yeah. No, it dissolved. There were 3 parliaments essentially.
Yeah, and then obviously each time essentially reducing its power, just making it more of an optical illusion to the people.
Yeah, but also just in that period, so the 1905-1906 period, just the creation of this revolutionary environment where sentiment for change is rife in Russia.
And remember that Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, Lenin, is part of that. He's part of that early revolutionary thing. I mean, that's why he ends up in exile afterwards, because he has to. He's hiding. So I mean, that's the beginnings. It's the rumblings, and that's kind of why we look at it. But nothing much changes. Comes 1914, World War I. And then, especially a war that big, the Great War. And it's not named the Great War because everybody loved it. It's great because it's big. El Grande. So, what would you call it? El Guerra Grande. Yeah, I think that would be Spanish. El Guerra Grande. I'll have the Argentine community, the Latin American community on my case, but I'm fairly certain that's what it would be. So the Great War is not great, but it's pretty great at killing people and costing economies and millions dying. I mean, Russia lost between 5 and 10 million soldiers who are essentially peasants. Most soldiers, only officers are from nobility. So your soldiers are the average person. So if they're out there fighting a war, what's happening to your agricultural community? I mean, food's not being produced. You end up with famine. So war exacerbates social economic problems.
And resentment.
And creates a lot of resentment.
And encourages an anti-Tsarist regime.
Well, I wouldn't. Encourages it. It exacerbates it. Maybe, because it already exists. But definitely, it feeds that fire, fuels that fire. And Lenin's in the picture, but he's not in Russia at that point. Because if he goes back to Russia, he's probably a dead man. His brother was part of the revolutionaries in the 1880s, 90s, something like that. When he was like 12, he had an older brother who was executed publicly for doing the same thing, for being anti-Tsarist. So the war, I mean, we know the war rages on from 14 to 18, all the while making things worse, making everyone miserable, the peasantry in particular, because they're all being dragged. Because, I mean, Russia historically has won a lot of wars, but at the kind of cost of its people, the cannon fodder, because it has such a massive population that their governments have always traditionally, I mean, look what's happening now.
Treating people as if they're disposable.
Yeah, exactly. You might, I mean, you can look at many wars that Russia won, including World War I and II. and they've generally lost the most people, but they've always been on the winning side, for whatever sense that makes. They've lost millions of people, and yet they're on the winning side. But that
humanity.
Yeah, again, that term we use, humanity, and it has a positive connotation. That's weird to me. So yes, I mean, conditions get terrible to the point that even the soldiers are fed up. By early 1917, the soldiers themselves are pretty much over it. They themselves declare that they will not stage offensives, attacks on the Germans, and they will simply hold their ground. They will defend, which obviously doesn't go down well.
Yeah.
And then come February on the Julian calendar, maybe just a note on that. We work on the Gregorian calendar. So when we talk about the February Revolution, that's Julian calendar, 22nd of Feb to the 3rd of March. On a Gregorian modern day calendar, I think it was the 8th to the 16th or something, March, something like that. It's always confusing for the kids. Like, what are you talking about, February, March? I'll just say the February-March Revolution. Because even on the Julian, it went from February into March. But yeah, I mean, what happens is the people are so fed up, they're so angry, the soldiers are angry, they don't want to fight anymore. The war is making their situation,
far worse,
exponentially worse. And they just want out. And then the women rise up. Again, same as the French Revolution. Why do women rise up?
Well, children, famine, gotta support your household.
Exactly, yeah.
Also, obviously, the men are out there fighting. And in the case of the Russian Revolution, the war, their participation in World War I. And so, women sort of didn't have much of a choice but to actually do or say something, demand accountability, demand intervention.
Yeah, and just the ability to feed their family.
Yeah, I mean, that's fundamentally what it is,
bread rights. I always find that interesting. It's almost exactly the same situation as the French Revolution. The women rise up basically demanding bread. Which makes sense.
It's fundamentals. I mean, there is this illusion, especially now in the 21st century with technology and so much to do, that why would you strike for bread? Why would you? I mean, until you strip away all of those fundamentals, no bread, no water, no power, no freedom of movement, then suddenly... Whereas back then, society was pretty much basic. You worked, you labored, so you could actually support your family. So deny people that, then you deny them their livelihoods. And there is no perception of, there's so much more to life other than farming and working. And, I think we live under that illusion for the most part.
Well, I think we sit on a tinderbox. I mean, we have a very similar society. If you want to look at peasant numbers, if you consider peasantry as a general term for for the unemployed, for the poor,
for the lower class,
for those who attempt to sort of survive on a subsistence. I mean, most of our population is essentially rural subsistence people. And they're poor and they can't eat, and we saw it in, what was it, 21 July?
2021.
So I mean, that's just it's there. I mean, this is a sort of environment that sort of thing can happen.
Yeah, and you can you'll find these patterns everywhere in the world, in any community, regardless of race, tribe, ethnicity.
Exactly.
It's a human response to disempowerment, to poverty, to famine,
survival. I mean, it always happens in the famine situation.
Yeah.
People can tolerate a lot. I mean, if you look at the Romanov dynasty, 370 years, you can look and you say, well, socially, politically, and economically, even, it was the same. It was like the same. Nothing changed. So what changed? Famine and poverty. And so when you can't feed your family, you have to rise up, or
die.
Exactly.
Essentially,
you might as well die trying. So the women march. It builds up to a pretty big number of, I think it was over 100,000 marchers. It spread throughout. I mean, this is also in Petrograd and St. Petersburg. And at that point you have, the orders to the soldiers to fire on them. But then let's remember, who are the soldiers? The peasants.
Yeah, peasants.
And so
Essentially firing at your friends, your family, potentially your countrymen. Hey.
And so they didn't. I think a few shots were fired, but not many people died at all. And essentially mutinies then began. Mutinies being soldiers rising up against their officers, who are much hated, especially when we'll look at the Kronstadt sailors, when we look at the Lenin side of things. Mutiny is happening a lot in that case because of that oppressive system that is kind of a micro example within the military, within the Navy, within the military, which is just a kind of a reflection or a magnification of the greater nation sort of situation, of the people's situation. And so they themselves were fed up with that oppressive hierarchy within military structures, and so they rose up. Same reason the women did. Well, similar reasons to the women, more in terms of frustration with that hierarchy. And so, that leads to the abdication of Tsar Nicholas II. He is demanded to come by his generals to come back from the front line. He sort of laughs it off at first. The peasants are revolting, the old joke.
Hey.
Well, I mean, it's a wonderful imperialist joke. The peasants are revolting, obviously a pun. But it's it's kind of an indication of the fact that he's sort of oblivious to the severity of the situation. Eventually gets on a train and heads back to Petrograd. I don't know how close he was to that, but he gets stopped and basically told, that's it, sign the papers, you're out. He abdicates, he steps down, and essentially it's a honeymoon in Russia. The people are jovial, they're overjoyed. It's like, yay, the situation will change. The provisional government is formed. I forget who's the first minister, Georgy Wolf or something, I don't know. And then Kerensky,
Yeah, Kerensky is the easier one to remember, actually.
Yeah, it's an easier name. I'm sure there was a tennis player called Kerensky. Anyway, probably was. And so provisional government is formed, honeymoon period for a few days. Eventually, by April, enter Lenin, preview to episode 2. But nothing
really changes. And revolutions are quite tricky in that sense, because it's easier to reach consensus over what a society doesn't want anymore, because you've had it perhaps for centuries. But what should replace that? And this is another pattern that you find in any given revolution, whether it's South Africa in the 90s and the 94, whether it's the French Revolution as well, what kind of political system should be implemented. So there's that period of instability, and different concepts are being tried out, and this works, this doesn't work. Tragedy as well befalls the nation. As we get into Lenin in the next episode, there are certain decisions that Lenin makes, trying to process what is good and healthy for the progress of Russia, and so that's essentially that's essentially what we shall pick up from.
I think maybe also just important to note, like with the removal of an oppressive hierarchical autocracy, there's an excitement amongst the people, and then the formation, or maybe the coming out of different parties, multiple parties, social democrats and social revolutionaries and blah 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 blah.
The Tsar loyalists as well.
Exactly.
Who want the old order to remain intact.
And so, as you say, the struggle for ideological, where do we go from here?
It's like identity. Sure.
And that's kind of where we'll leave off, I think.
Yeah, I think let's
Lenin.
chop it over there, and then Lenin,
Vladimir Ulyanov, Ulyanov.
I'm hearing a bit of Olafia somewhere in there.
All right.